Hi, I'm Bernard Nomberg with the Nomberg Law Firm in Birmingham, Alabama. And we have compiled a list of questions that we've gotten over the last couple of weeks from clients and potential clients about workplace safety, and have also answered those questions. And I wanted to go over, there's about a dozen of them, but they're so often being asked that we thought that we would share it in video form because they seem to be a very common set of questions. So in no particular order, I'm going to go through them. And if you have questions about any of this afterward, please just contact us at 205-930-6900 or seek us out at our website at nomberglaw.com. Here we go. Is my employer allowed to require employees to adopt infection control practices to combat infectious disease? And the answer to that is yes. Requiring infection control practice is not only a good idea, obviously now, but also does not implicate any violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Additionally, an employer is allowed to require personal protective equipment, PPE, designed to combat the spread of infectious disease such as COVID-19. If an employee needs a reasonable accommodation in order to use certain safety equipment like latex gloves due to an allergy, then an employer must provide it to the employee. Can my employer force me to supply personal safety equipment to prevent the spread of disease? The answer is no. If your employer has determined that personal protective equipment is required for the work site, then it's the employer's responsibility to make sure that it's provided at the job site. Can my employer make me wear PPE such as face masks, gloves, or gowns meant to reduce the spread of COVID-19? Well, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, doesn't recommend that people who are well to wear some type of mask to protect themselves from respiratory diseases, which includes COVID-19. The CDC does recommend that surgical masks should be used by people who show symptoms of COVID-19. And then if an employee shows symptoms or has been diagnosed with COVID-19, however, the CDC does recommend that that employee be separated from other employees and be sent home immediately. Then this would take away the need for the mask in the workplace accommodation. Does my employer have a duty to protect me from infectious disease at work? Well, the answer to that is yes. OSHA, the Occupational Safety Health Administration, puts out the laws that address these things, and the law requires that employers to provide a safe workplace, and your employer does have a duty to protect you from recognized hazards, and that's the tricky part here, the recognized hazards. However, there's no real specific duty that entails what the employer must do, however, to protect you from infectious disease. My coworker has been constantly coughing throughout the workday, and I'm worried about getting sick. Should I inform my supervisor? And the answer to that is definitely yes. If the employee shows signs of acute respiratory illness such as shortness of breath and cough and those kind of things, or becomes sick during the day, the CDC recommends that the employee be separated and sent home immediately. Advising such workers to go home is not a disability-related action if the illness is similar to seasonal flu or COVID-19. Additionally, the action would be permitted under the ADA if the illness were serious enough to pose a direct threat. Is my employer allowed to track whether I or my family members have contracted an infectious disease? And that's a tricky one. It really depends. Typically, employers can't force you to tell them that you have a disability or a sickness that others not at risk for catching. However, under the ADA during a pandemic, an employer may require employees to disclose whether they or their family members have been exposed to an infectious disease. When I come back to work, can my employer require doctor's notes certifying my fitness for duty? And the answer to that is yes. These types of questions are permitted under the ADA, either because they would not be disability related or if the employee was believed to have COVID-19 and it were truly severe. Your employer would be justified under the ADA standards for this type of an inquiry. If I'm quarantined, what information can my employer share with my coworkers? If an employee is confirmed to have COVID-19, employers should inform fellow employees of their possible exposure to COVID-19 in the workplace. Employers should not, however, disclose to coworkers the identity of the quarantined employee because confidentiality requirements under federal law such as ADA or state law might apply. Is my boss required to grant me leave if I've been quarantined due to an infectious disease? Many states do not have laws preventing employers from firing someone who is quarantined by the state, as long as there is no contract or union agreement protecting or addressing such for the employees. However, in some states, they do have laws that prevent employers from firing any employee or any full-time employee. However, some states do have laws that prevent employers from firing, and you really need to address whatever particular state you live in. You need to find out what those states' laws are. Do employer-instituted quarantines or temporary shutdowns or mass layoffs entitle workers to unemployment benefits? And the answer to that is yes. The rules have changed. In Alabama, there are specific guidelines now for unemployment compensation. If you need that type of information, we have another video in this series that addresses unemployment in Alabama. Most states have adopted the Federal Department of Labor's new guidelines on this. Hopefully some of these questions and answers have addressed some of your concerns. If you have other questions or concerns, please reach out to us at 205-930-6900. As I said earlier, our website is nomberglaw.com. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and tell us why. And if you didn't, we understand. We're trying to do our best here. Subscribing to this channel will ensure that you get videos as they come out, which are either daily or at least weekly. We can also be found on Facebook and Twitter.